Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your Tuesday host on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about Technopagans, which is why it's a little bit funny that I'm doing this video low-tech, which reminds me of a song, the link to which I will put in the description because it is stuck in my head. Before I get started, I do want to make a quick note about the channel in general, just to remind you all that this channel does talk about some controversial topics now and again because we go off of what people ask us. We encourage you to disagree on things and learn from each other and maintain your individual standpoint, but please remember that this channel is about learning about differences and embracing diversity in a very respectful manner. We do not all have to agree on things. In fact, it would be incredibly boring if we did. There would be no discussion. Why would we talk to each other if we all just thought the same thing? We wouldn't have to. We would just already know what everyone thought. But please remember that this is an area that people should feel able to express their different beliefs and what they think. It is entirely possible to disagree and to talk about different things and talk about things that are really controversial and that are really important to all of us without name-calling, without disrespecting, without putting anyone down. So please just remember to maintain respect and we can all continue to have a lot of fun. So now on to the topic. It's from someone whose username I can't pronounce. I'm just going to call them JD, and they were wondering if I personally could talk about techno-pagan rituals and how they differ from classic rituals, and if I've ever had any experience with it, and they were hoping that I could maybe ask around and see what it's like. But we're posing this to the entire channel, and I didn't go around and ask people, so absolutely if any of you out there consider yourselves techno-pagans, please tell the questioner what it is like, because I am only going off of certain aspects that I do have in my practice and things that I have learned online pretty much just today. And I'm going to start with something that I found on a LiveJournal thread, which I will go through all of my links in a little bit, which this user called a sort of geeky read. It goes like this. 9 words serve the TechMage best. Keep what works, fix what's broke, dump the rest. And if that doesn't sound exactly like what I say to you guys all the time, I don't know what does. I love that. There will be a bunch of links in the description. The first one is to an article from wired.com about technopagans, and within the text of that article, they say that paganism is several decades old, although the description is clear that they're talking about neo-paganism and the new movements that came out of it. And the article also says that pagans call non-pagans, or people outside the pagan community, mundanes. Do you guys call non-pagans mundanes? I do know some people who refer to non-magical people as muggles, and I know that some TV shows and things refer to non-magical people as mortals, which I don't think is a good, obviously, because we're not immortal, we are people too. There's a link from Project Cyberpunk, which is an introduction to techno-paganism and techno-shamanism. I found that link really helpful. And then there are going to be some LiveJournal links. There's one to the Technopaganism group in general, and then 3 posts that they referred people to if you want to learn more about technopaganism. The first thing you'll notice is that, like any other type of paganism or any kind of belief out there, there are lots of different definitions, and there are different ways that people consider themselves techno-pagans. So one thing, using technology in ritual or as part of your practice, such as keeping an electronic book of shadows, using a laser pointer instead of a wand, things like that, that could make you a techno-pagan. Another definition is using magic to aid technology, like using crystals to help keep your computers running well, or using magic to aid your online character in a game that you're playing, doing a spell to help your character be successful. Another one is urban shamanism, which is a term I didn't know about before, so I read a little more on that. And rave culture, which kind of reminds me of several weeks ago when we were talking about meditation music and using video game OSTs for meditation and trance. Another one, which I find really interesting because I love metaphor, being an English type person, using technology metaphors to describe the world, or using magic metaphors to describe how technology works. All of that is very interesting to me, and it makes me wish that I knew even more about technology and computers and stuff like that, because the metaphors that they draw are just so intriguing. Another definition of technopagan is having a belief that technology has a unique spirit, So like anything mechanical or electronic, your computer, your car, they all have their own unique spirit. And then there's just the actual difference of how ritual works, which when I was younger, when I was like 12 or 13, first starting out on my path, I had heard of technopaganism, and I just assumed that it was the kind of thing where you would get together in a group online and do a ritual online. Now, through some of these articles, I was reading about the Wired article, talks about physical ritual that they do. You know, they get together in person and they do ritual and use magic to further technology or to celebrate technology. So it doesn't necessarily have to be online. One of the LiveJournal threads, the first one, describes techno-pagan elements, including things like using a lighter for fire, or using spellcraft to make your car go faster. I've definitely done things like that, and it just seems natural to me to use what you have, which I've of course talked about in videos before, and I especially love what one of the moderators of the board, tyrsalvia, says about technopaganism not being about or, it's about and. So if you think of it in terms of advanced search terms, it's not about using this or that, it's about combining technology with your pagan practice. It's about and. I love that. In other parts of the threads, some people say that for them, it's about technology being a part of nature because it comes from us. So all things are natural and no truly unnatural thing can exist because it all comes out of nature. Others say for them, it's more about an urban take on our connection and our relation to nature. So it varies widely, there's hardly one definition of it, and once again, it's just about a personal connection to the different elements that make up this path. So the questioner wanted to know about my experience with it. Let's talk about a little bit the techno bits that can be found in my practice. For example, I use lighters, and I actually use a different colored lighter depending on the moon phase at the time. And that just started because I happened to have different colored lighters, so I thought, well, I'm going to use what color I think fits this time. I have done car protection spells, and I use chants to the goddess of travel while I'm driving. Or I sing to the elements to quell inclement weather until I reach my destination. I keep many witchy notes on my computer in a sort of virtual, digital Book of Shadows grimoire. I turn on iTunes for background music when I do yoga, or I put in headphones to listen to my meditation music. When I was younger, my friend Carol Ann and I would make super sugary homemade Orange Julius's. Turn on Windows Media Player and play some techno rave type music and just stare at the changing color animation visualization for literally hours. When we discussed meditation music a little while ago, like I was mentioning about the OSTs for trance and things like that, I did talk about how when I would go to school dances, especially at my college, and they would play techno-style music or really fast-paced, just really instrumental beat, and they would turn on all the different colored lights and the strobes, I would always break away from the group of people that I was dancing with and just be with myself, and I would tend to look at the floor and my hair falls around my eyes and it causes a very specific line of vision. So I'm no longer thinking about everyone else, I'm just within myself and the music, and that was an absolutely trance-like state for me, and I loved that part of dances. I look up information that I need to know about my practice online. I make videos and blog about my practice, so obviously I use technology in that way. And a while ago we did videos about using technology, so I have another video from that which I will link to. And I haven't done this, but Annie made her personal sigil into an icon that she uses on her online profiles. And someone else once asked me what type of sewing machine I use to make my pouches, and I told them I don't. I sew it by hand and use not magic and more focus from doing it by hand. And they replied that they blessed their sewing machine instead. So many of us do incorporate technology in various ways, which may qualify us as techno-pagans by that one simple definition that we use technology. But in other ways we don't fit. I don't consider myself a techno-pagan even though I do embrace certain things, like the things that I just mentioned, but I don't usually use technology instead of quote-unquote natural items. I don't think much about whether technology has its own unique spirit. That's just not really something I've ever thought about. So the more techno aspects of it are not really so much what I do. I love my computer. and I love my technology, but I still prefer to go out into the woods if I have that opportunity. And when computers end up in landfills and parts may harm the environment if they're not disposed of correctly, that's where I see more of this separation. So yes, technology came from humans, thus it is an extension of us, and I do think we should use it if it's available and it helps us. I always say use what works, which is why I so much appreciated that geeky read. But though all things come from nature, I do think that certain things get further removed to a place where it's no longer able to give back to the environment. And that's where I see the separation as far as giving back to the earth versus polluting it. You can be a pagan in the city. It would just be a lot harder for me personally. You can see interconnectedness and blessedness in cyberspace, for it is indeed there. And you can also be a pretty much nature-based pagan who also happens to use certain aspects of technology. It doesn't have to be one or the other, and you're not automatically a techno-pagan if you do happen to use your stove instead of a campfire, or find new information by searching on the internet. What you call it is up to you, how much tech you combine is up to you, and just from what I learned about the subject today, I can see that it's an incredibly variant thing, and it's obviously very personal, as all things are. So while we can't really pinpoint exactly what it is all the time, I hope that the links will help you see a little bit more what different individuals think about it. And it certainly gives me a lot to think about. I hope you have fun learning about it and thinking about it more as well. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next week. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.